Everyone, today our reading is not from the New Testament, it's actually from Aristotle. This is going to be an introduction to the household codes. Aristotle says, "The male is by nature superior, and the female inferior. The one rules, the other is ruled. This principle of necessity extends to all mankind. Of household management, we have seen there are three parts. One as a rule of a master over slaves, another of a father, the third as a husband. The male is by nature fitter for command than the female, just as the older and full-grown is superior to the younger and more immature. The freeman rules over the slave after another manner from that in which the male rules over the female or the man over the child. Although the parts of the soul are present in all of them, they are present in different degrees. For the slave has no deliberative faculty at all. The woman has, but it is without authority. The child has, but it is immature." I really hope you don't agree with any of that. Now, how many Christians, though, would say that some of that or all of that is true? See, these are the founding beliefs of the Roman Empire. These are the assumptions that Peter is dealing with, right? In the Roman Empire, they believe that the building block of the family is the father, right? That he rules the household basically like a mini emperor. And so these household codes, as they're called, would be only addressed to him, right? He's the only one that matters. He's the boss. He's the only one with a full soul that understands everything. And so what Christian authors are doing, Peter and Paul both, they have to adapt this well-known patriarchal model. They didn't create it. This is not God ordained. Instead, they're taking this and then trying to subvert it in different ways. Because they knew, just as preachers today know, that you got to meet people where they are. And many of the people Peter's writing to are coming from paganism, and so he's got to speak to what they know. So how does Peter challenge oppressive views with the gospel? Well, one of the things that we'll see is that he speaks only to slaves, not the masters. Right? He speaks to the person on the bottom, not the one on top. He's actually giving agency to those who are told that they have none. And then also with what he says to wives, right? He's looking at this situation where wives who have non-Christian husbands already seem disrespectful. And so he's trying to make something work in that context. Or you go to Paul's in Ephesians 5. His whole thesis statement is the idea of mutual submission. That's, again, very different from what was expected in their culture. So they had to work with Aristotle. We don't. We'll acknowledge tomorrow how Peter was elevating enslaved people and trying to help them reframe their status. But we can also acknowledge that slavery as a whole is sub-Christian and we can reject the entire institution. We can also acknowledge how Christians have abused passages like this. And this question of submission, is that inherently bad? I know I don't like that word. And usually when it's used, it's the person that's on top that has power that's commanding the person below them to submit. Instead, what Peter does is he calls those who are on the bottom to choose it. Not giving them all power over us, but acknowledging ultimately that we are under the same Lord, and that changes all of our relationships. God is who we submit to ultimately because we trust that God is actually doing what's best.